I had billions in my bank account, power at my fingertips, and could buy anything I desired. Then I met her, a black woman whose eyes saw through my empire to the hollow man beneath. For the first time, something I desperately wanted couldn't be acquired with a checkbook. This is the story of how I lost everything to gain what matters most. If you've ever wondered if true connection exists beyond wealth and status, stay with me for the next 20 minutes. Subscribe now to hear more stories that challenge what we think we know about love and power. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. My father worked two jobs while my mother stretched every dollar until it screamed. I watched them struggle, and at 16, I made a promise to myself. I would never know that kind of desperation. That hunger became my fuel. By 25, I launched my first tech company. By 30, I sold it for nine figures. The headlines called me a wunderkind, a visionary. What they didn't see were the 18-hour days, the relationships I sacrificed, the ruthlessness I cultivated like a precious garden. Success isn't stumbled upon. It's hunted down and captured. Now, at 42, I command an empire that spans continents. My penthouse sits 60 floors above Manhattan, all glass and steel and silence. From up here, people look like dots moving without purpose. Sometimes I watch them for hours, wondering what simple pleasures fill their evenings while I review acquisition reports. My garage houses cars worth more than most people's lifetime earnings. A matte black Bugatti, a vintage Ferrari, an Aston Martin I've driven exactly twice. My closet holds 300 suits, each one hand-tailored in Milan or London. My private jet waits at the airport, perpetually fueled and ready, a sleek testament to my impatience with the world's limitations. Women have come and gone like seasonal collections, models, executives, socialites, all beautiful, all temporary. They wore my gifts, enjoyed my properties, posted our adventures on their social media. I treated them well, generously even. But we both understood the arrangement. Companionship exchanged for proximity to power. When conversations deepened beyond vacation plans or restaurant reservations, I'd feel that familiar itch to move on. My inner circle operates the same way. Business partners, financial advisors, personal assistants, all orbiting me with professional smiles and calculated compliments. We celebrate deals with $1,000 bottles of scotch, slapbacks over successful quarters, exchange holiday gifts selected by our respective assistants. I know nothing about their children or dreams or fears. They know nothing about mine. Last night, I stood on my terrace overlooking the glittering city, champagne in hand, celebrating my company's largest acquisition to date. $8 billion. My phone buzzed constantly with congratulatory messages from people who would benefit from my success. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt nothing. A hollow victory in a game I'd mastered but had grown tired of playing. That's when it hit me, this strange, unfamiliar hunger. Not for more wealth or another acquisition, not for another car or another beautiful woman on my arm. Something else entirely, something real, authentic. I'd spent decades building walls with my wealth, creating a fortress that kept everyone at a calculated distance. I'd forgotten how to actually connect with another human being. The irony wasn't lost on me. I, who could buy anything, suddenly wanted the one thing my money couldn't secure: genuine connection. A relationship uncomplicated by what I could provide materially. Someone who would see me, not my net worth, not my influence, not what I could do for their career or lifestyle. I just didn't know such a thing was possible for a man like me. Until I met her. I first saw her at the annual gala for my foundation. These events are predictable affairs. Wealthy people writing checks to ease their conscience while networking over champagne. I usually make an appearance, give a rehearsed speech about giving back, and leave before dessert. My assistant handles the actual charity work. That night, I noticed her immediately. She wasn't dressed to impress in designer labels like the other women. Her dress was elegant but simple, her natural hair styled in an elaborate updo that framed her face perfectly. But it was her laugh that caught my attention. Genuine, uninhibited, cutting through the carefully modulated chatter of the ballroom. Who is she? I asked Richard, my event coordinator. Dr. Maya Turner, he replied. Community organizer from Harlem. She runs education programs for underserved youth. Her work is why we're all here tonight, actually. I watched as she engaged with everyone around her, from waitstaff to board members, with the same authentic interest. No posturing, no agenda. Just real conversation. I approached her with my usual confidence, extending my hand. James Whitaker. I'm pleased you could join us tonight. Her handshake was firm, her smile polite but measured. Mr. Whitaker, your foundation has been generous, though I admit I'm surprised to actually meet you in person. Oh, and why is that? Most billionaires prefer to donate from a comfortable distance. They rarely want to see the communities they claim to help. I wasn't used to such directness. People typically tiptoed around me, careful not to offend. Her candor was refreshing, yet unsettling. Perhaps you can educate me then, I said, signaling for more champagne. Tell me about your work. For the next hour, she spoke about educational inequality, systemic barriers, and the brilliant potential of the kids in her programs. She didn't simplify her language or soften her critique of systems that people like me had benefited from. Not once did she compliment my wealth or accomplishments. Not once did she seem impressed by who I was. You should visit our center someday, she said. See what your money actually does. I'd like that, I replied, surprised to find I meant it. When I tried to give her my private number, she handed me a business card instead. My office hours are on there. Call if you're serious. As she walked away, I felt strangely off balance. I wasn't used to being dismissed so easily. Women typically lingered, sought reasons to extend our conversation. Maya Turner had places to be, purpose that didn't involve impressing me. The next day, I sent flowers to her office, an extravagant arrangement that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her response came via email. Thank you for the gesture, but next time, consider donating the flower budget to our after-school program instead. Lilies won't help our kids get to college. I laughed out loud at her response. Most people in my orbit performed gratitude for my gestures, regardless of how they actually felt. Her honesty was like cold water to the face. I found myself thinking about her throughout meetings that day. Not just her beauty, though she was certainly beautiful. It was her conviction, her clear-eyed purpose. She existed completely independent of my validation or resources. She didn't need me or what I could offer. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I found myself genuinely interested in someone else's world. A world where my wealth and power held no special currency. A world I suddenly, desperately wanted to understand. I've never had to pursue anyone. People orbit around me, associates, hopefuls, admirers, all eager for my time and attention. But Maya was different. She existed in her own gravitational field, and for the first time, I found myself caught in someone else's pull. I called her office the following week and was told by her assistant that Dr. Turner was booked solid for the next month. I almost laughed. No one was too busy for me. I mentioned donating additional funds, and suddenly a lunch meeting appeared on her calendar. We met at a small Caribbean restaurant in Harlem. Her choice, not mine. No private rooms, no special treatment. Just a cramped table in a busy lunch spot where the owner greeted her by name and asked about her grandmother. I was invisible here, just another patron in a place where Maya had history. You look uncomfortable, she observed, spreading hot sauce on her food. I'm used to more privacy when I dine, I admitted. That's the problem with walls and VIP sections, she said. You miss the actual experience. The community. Over jerk chicken and plantains, I told her about my plans to expand the Foundation's educational initiatives. I mentioned figures in the millions, spoke of new buildings with my name on them. I expected to impress her. Instead, she asked, have you ever actually taught a class? Mentored a student? Seen firsthand what these kids need? I hadn't, of course. In the weeks that followed, I sent increasingly extravagant gestures her way. I donated a computer lab to her center. She sent a polite thank you note from the students. I offered to fly her to Paris for a weekend educational conference. She declined, saying she preferred to use those resources for her staff instead. I even purchased a building that housed her organization, eliminating their rent concerns permanently. She acknowledged the practicality but seemed unmoved by the grandeur of the gesture. Frustrated, I appeared unannounced at her center one afternoon. She was leading a workshop with teenagers, her sleeves rolled up, fully engaged in their boisterous energy. She spotted me hovering in the doorway but didn't interrupt her session. "Your money doesn't impress me," she said later in her modest office, walls covered with student artwork and community awards. "Don't get me wrong, I'll use it to help these kids. But if you think it buys you special access to me, you're mistaken." "Then what would—" I asked, genuinely confused. "What do you want?" "That's exactly the problem," she sighed. "You think everyone has a price, that everything and everyone can be acquired if you just find the right currency." "Isn't that how the world works?" I challenged. "Your world, maybe." She leaned forward, eyes intense. "James, when was the last time you did something that didn't benefit you in some way? Something with no return on investment? When did you last connect with someone who couldn't advance your position or enhance your image?" Her words hit like a physical blow. I couldn't remember. Maybe never. "You've built an empire," she continued, softer now, "but you live in isolation behind it. You throw money at problems so you don't have to engage with them. You donate to communities without understanding them. You want my attention. Stop trying to buy it. Just be human." I left her office feeling stripped bare. In boardrooms and bedrooms, I'd always held the power, but Maya had seen through my tactics to the emptiness beneath. She'd identified the hollowness in my approach to everything, not just to her, but to life itself. That night, staring out at the city from my penthouse, I realized something terrifying. All my wealth, all my power, all my carefully cultivated influence meant nothing here. For the first time in my adult life, I had encountered something I desperately wanted but couldn't simply acquire. If I wanted to matter to Maya Turner, I would need to become someone worthy of her respect. Not by what I owned or controlled, but by who I actually was. The problem? I wasn't sure I knew who that person was anymore, or if he even existed at all. Her words haunted me for days. Just be human. Such a simple directive, yet I had no idea how to follow it. I'd spent decades perfecting the art of strategic relationships. Every interaction calculated for maximum benefit. Every connection maintained at precisely the right distance. I canceled meetings, silenced my phone, paced my penthouse like a caged animal. My COO thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. After a week of existential paralysis, I made a decision. If Maya wouldn't accept grand gestures, perhaps she'd respond to humble ones. I sent her a message. "I'd like to volunteer." No cameras, no press, no donation announcements. Just my time, if you'll have it. Her response was cautious but open. "Saturday morning. 8 a.m. Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty." I arrived at her community center to find a group preparing for a neighborhood cleanup. Maya handed me work gloves and a trash bag without ceremony. For 6 hours, I picked up garbage alongside teenagers from her program, listening to their stories, their music, their dreams. My designer clothes soaked with sweat, my hands blistered and raw. "You didn't have to stay the whole day," Maya said as we finished, surprise evident in her voice. "I wanted to," I replied, realizing it was true. That Saturday turned into a regular commitment. I began tutoring students in business and technology, subjects I actually knew something about. I learned their names, their struggles, their remarkable resilience. They didn't care about my net worth or my corporate conquests. They cared if I would show up consistently, if I would listen without judgment, if I would see their potential. Maya observed from a distance, skeptical of my staying power. "People like you tend to play poverty tourist for a while," she said after my third week. "Feel good about slumming it, then retreat to your penthouse. Her words stung because they contained truth. I'm trying to change, I told her. Trying isn't the same as changing, she replied. My board of directors grew concerned about my new priorities. This community project is taking too much of your focus, my chairman warned. Shareholders are asking questions. For the first time, I found myself defending something that had no profit margin, no ROI, no strategic advantage. Some things matter more than quarterly reports, I told them. The words felt foreign in my mouth, but right in my heart. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Maya's armor began to lower. We started having conversations that extended beyond her programs, about books, music, politics, life. I discovered she'd grown up just blocks from the center she now ran, raised by a grandmother after losing both parents. She'd worked multiple jobs to put herself through college and graduate school. Every advantage I'd purchased, she'd earned through grit and sacrifice. Why did you come back? I asked her one evening as we walked through her neighborhood. With your credentials, you could work anywhere. Because home matters, she said simply. Communities matter. You can't change what you abandon. Her words settled deep within me. I'd spent my life abandoning places, people, parts of myself that didn't serve my ambition. Always moving forward, never looking back, never remaining present. The real test came when her center faced a zoning crisis. Developers, people exactly like me, were pushing to convert the block into luxury condos. The community would be displaced, her programs homeless. I can fix this, I offered immediately, reaching for my checkbook. Maya shook her head. That's your old pattern, throwing money at problems from a distance. Then what should I do? I asked, genuinely lost. Stand with us, she said. Not above us. So I did. I attended community meetings in church basements, sat silently while residents who recognized me from magazine covers eyed me with suspicion. Used my connections not to override the community's voice, but to amplify it. I listened more than I spoke. I followed instead of led. My business associates were baffled. My socialite friends stopped calling. The press wrote pieces questioning my mental health and business acumen. I was stepping off the only path I'd ever known, and it terrified me. But something else was happening too. In letting go of control and surrendering my carefully constructed identity, I found pieces of myself I'd discarded long ago. Genuine laughter, spontaneous joy, the ability to sit in silence without reaching for my phone, the capacity to care about something beyond my own interests. One night, after a small victory at City Hall for the community, Maya and I ended up on the roof of her building. The Manhattan skyline glittered in the distance, my world visible but somehow less important than it once was. You're different, she said quietly. I wasn't sure you could be. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. When she smiled at me, really smiled without reservation or judgment, I understood what I'd been chasing all along. Not possession or conquest, not another acquisition, but connection. Authentic, unguarded, real connection. For the first time in my life, I was being seen not for what I owned or what I could provide, but simply for who I was becoming. And somehow that felt more valuable than everything else I'd ever achieved. The community won its battle against the developers, not through my money or influence alone, but through the collective power of people fighting for their home. I was just one voice among many, perhaps a useful one, but no longer the loudest or most important. And that felt right. After the celebration, Maya and I sat on a bench in the small community garden that the residents had fought to preserve. Children played nearby, elderly neighbors tended plants, teenagers lounged on the grass looking at their phones. A cross-section of real life I'd been insulated from for decades. So what now, James? Maya asked. You've saved the community center, made some allies here, proven whatever you needed to prove. Is this where you return to your tower? Her question wasn't accusatory, just straightforward, as she'd always been with me. I don't think I can go back, I said truthfully. Not completely. Why not? Because I'm not the same person who lived there. I looked around at the garden, the people, the life happening all around us. That man was surrounded by everything and connected to nothing. She studied me, her eyes searching for any hint of performance or calculation. I had nothing to hide anymore. I'm not going to lie, I continued. I still have responsibilities. A company that employs thousands. Commitments I can't just abandon. But I understand now what you were trying to show me. And what's that? That wealth creates walls. That you can have everything and still have nothing. That some things, and the most important things, can't be purchased or possessed. She smiled, a soft, genuine expression. For what it's worth, I think you've changed. I wouldn't have believed it was possible. I'm still changing, I admitted, still learning, but I know I don't want to go back to that empty life. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the community she'd always been part of and that I was just beginning to understand. The boundary between her world and mine had blurred, and I was grateful for it. Maya, I said finally, I need to be clear about something. When I first met you, I wanted to possess you like everything else in my life. Another acquisition. Another trophy. She nodded, unsurprised. But now, I searched for the right words. Now I just want to know you. To be worthy of knowing you. Whether that's as friends or something more, I'll accept whatever boundaries you set. That might be the first time you've ever said that to anyone, she observed. It is, I acknowledged. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the garden. Maya turned to face me directly. I can't promise you anything romantic, she said honestly, but I can promise you honesty, authenticity, a friendship without agenda, and we'll see where it leads. It wasn't the fairy tale ending my ego might once have demanded. Not a conquest or a victory, but it was real. And real had become more valuable to me than any fantasy. In the months that followed, I restructured my company, delegating more to focus on what mattered. I established a genuine foundation, not a tax write-off or PR stunt, that invested in community-led initiatives like Maya's. I sold the penthouse and bought a more modest place closer to the neighborhoods where I now spent much of my time. Maya and I continued to build something neither of us had names for. Not quite romance, not merely friendship. Something honest and unhurried and unbound by conventional definitions. We shared meals, debates, books, music. We had boundaries and respected them. We had differences and honored them. Sometimes I catch myself slipping into old patterns, thinking of relationships as transactions, people as assets, life as a competition to be won. When that happens, I remember what Maya taught me. That connection can't be purchased. That authenticity requires vulnerability. That true power comes not from what you control, but from what you contribute. I had spent a lifetime accumulating wealth only to discover my greatest poverty was of spirit. I had built an empire of things while remaining a pauper in matters of the heart. And it took a woman who saw through every facade, who rejected every material offering, who demanded nothing less than authenticity, to show me what I was missing. I don't know if Maya and I will ever be what society would call a couple, but I know that whatever we are to each other is more real than anything I've experienced before, and that has made all the difference. In the end, the man who could buy anything learned the most valuable lesson, that the things truly worth having are the things that cannot be bought. That love, whether romantic, platonic, or communal, must be earned through authenticity, sustained through reciprocity, and valued for its very resistance to being possessed. And that, perhaps, is the greatest wealth of all. If this journey resonated with you, hit subscribe and share with someone who needs to hear that authentic connection can't be bought. Drop a comment about a time when you discovered what truly matters in your own life. New episodes every week about the relationships that transform us.